Welcome to The Explainer. In the world of web development, there's this huge debate going on about how our apps should talk to each other. On one side, you have the long-reigning champion, REST, and on the other, the flexible challenger, GraphQL. Today, we're going to break them both down so you can figure out which one you should actually use and when.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll set the stage. What in the world is an API anyway? Then, we'll introduce our two big players, REST and GraphQL. After that, we'll put them side by side to see how they stack up, and finally we'll get to the most important part, a guide to help you choose the right tool for your specific job. Alright, before we can even get into the whole REST versus GraphQL thing, we've got to start at square one. We need to understand the absolute foundation of all of this. What exactly is an API?
Okay, the easiest way to think about an API is like a bridge. Seriously. It's the crucial link that lets two totally different pieces of software communicate. You know, when you open an app on your phone to check the weather, that's an API acting as a bridge between your app and the weather service's servers to get you the latest forecast. They are the invisible backbone of pretty much everything we do online.
First up to bat is REST. And let me tell you, for the better part of 2 decades, this has been the undisputed king of the hill. It's the architectural style that literally wrote the playbook for how the modern web communicates.
Now, the key thing to get here is that REST isn't some super strict protocol with rigid rules. It's more like a philosophy, a set of guidelines, and it organizes the whole world around this idea of resources. A resource can be anything, a user, a product, a photo, and every single one of those things gets its own unique address on the web, a URL.
So how do you actually do stuff with these resources? Well, REST uses the same simple verbs that your web browser uses every single day. You use get to read or retrieve data. You use post to create something new, put or patch to update something that's already there, and delete, well, you can probably guess what that does. It's predictable, it's straightforward, and it just makes sense.
So why did REST become so incredibly popular? Well, a few big reasons. For one, it's just simple and intuitive to work with. It's designed to be stateless, which makes it really easy to scale up to handle tons of traffic. Plus, and this is a big one, it can take advantage of the web's built-in caching mechanisms to speed things up. And after 20 years, you better believe it has a massive, mature ecosystem of tools and support.
But there's always a but, isn't there? As powerful as REST is, that very rigid, predictable structure started to show some strain. As our applications, especially on mobile, got way more complex and data-hungry, this rigidity started creating some problems. And that brings us to the first major issue developers started hitting, a little thing called overfetching. And this is a huge problem for any device on a shaky mobile connection where every byte of data counts.
So what is overfetching? It's when your app only needs one tiny piece of information, like a user's name, but the fixed REST endpoint sends you everything: their name, their address, their phone number, their entire order history, the whole shebang. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering a single cup of coffee and the waiter brings you the entire breakfast buffet. It's just so wasteful.
And on the complete flip side of that coin, you've got the exact opposite problem, which is just as annoying, underfetching. This is where your app has to make multiple trips back and forth to the server just to get all the info it needs for a single screen.
Just imagine you're trying to build a profile screen. You need the user's details, and you need their latest posts. With a typical REST setup, that's often 2 separate requests. First, you ask the server for the user. You wait. Then you ask the server for that user's posts. You wait again. All those round trips add up, and they make your app feel slow and clunky.
So these two big problems, overfetching and underfetching, set the perfect stage for our modern challenger to enter the ring, GraphQL. It was actually created by Facebook back in 2015, and it was designed from the ground up to solve these exact inefficiencies.
GraphQL completely flips the script. Instead of having dozens of different URLs for every little thing, you usually just have one single endpoint, and the client, your app, sends a very detailed query, kind of like a shopping list for data, that specifies exactly what it needs, no matter how nested or complex it is. Just take a look at what's happening in this one query. In a single, elegant request, the client is saying, hey, I need the user with ID 123. From that user, I just want their name and email. Oh, and while you're at it, can you also grab their posts? But for the posts, I only care about the title and the content. It's all right there, one shot.
And that right there is the magic of GraphQL. One request goes out, the server runs around and gathers up exactly what you asked for, and one perfectly shaped response comes back. And just like that, the problems of overfetching and underfetching, they just disappear.
And GraphQL isn't just a one-trick pony for getting data. A query is how you fetch data. That's kind of like a REST GET request. A mutation is how you change data, so creating, updating, or deleting stuff. But then there's this really cool third piece, subscriptions. This allows the server to push real-time updates to your app. Think about a chat app or live notifications. That's what subscriptions are for.
Okay, so now we know the players and we know their core philosophies. So let's put them in the ring, side by side, for a direct head-to-head comparison.
This chart really tells the whole story, doesn't it? You can see the fundamental trade-offs. REST is fixed, the server's in charge of the data shape. GraphQL is flexible, the client is in the driver's seat. REST has tons of endpoints, GraphQL typically has just one. Now caching, that's a big point for REST, since it's built right into the web. It's a bit more complex to get right in GraphQL. But then look at real-time support. GraphQL has that built in with subscriptions. And then there's versioning. With REST, you always see those v1, v2 things in the URL when an API changes. GraphQL is designed to just evolve over time, letting you add new fields without breaking older apps.
So all of this brings us to the million-dollar question. Which one should you actually choose for your project? And look, the answer is not about which one is better, it's about which one is the better tool for the specific job you're trying to do.
Let's make this really simple. You should probably stick with REST if your API is pretty straightforward and resource-based. If you absolutely need to leverage the power of standard HTTP caching, that's a big win for REST. Or, honestly, if your team just knows REST inside and out and you need to move fast. For those situations, REST is a fantastic, battle-tested, and reliable choice.
But, on the other hand, you should seriously consider GraphQL if your application has more complex needs. If you're building for multiple clients, like a website, an iOS app, and an Android app, that all need slightly different data. If real-time updates are a core feature for you, or if you just want to empower your front-end teams to be more flexible. In those cases, GraphQL can be an absolute game changer.
But you know what? Here's the most important takeaway of all. This is not a competition. It is not an either-or decision. Think of this as a toolbox. Many of the biggest companies in the world use a hybrid approach. They might use REST for simple internal services and then use GraphQL for their big, complex, customer-facing applications. You can, and often should, use both.
So let's go all the way back to that bridge analogy from the beginning. Your data is on one side and your app is on the other. Both of these tools will get you across. The choice really comes down to this. Are you going to take the established, well-paved public highway that REST provides, or are you going to draw your own custom, direct-to-your-doorstep map with GraphQL? The right answer depends entirely on your destination.